एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निरभउ निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सैभं गुर प्रसाद जप आद सच जुगाद सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच आद सच जुगाद सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच। Thank you, Sangat ji, for joining this beautiful Sangat today and for taking time out of your hectic life to build and nurture the relationship with the divine. That relationship which will be our guide and savior in this life and beyond. During today's discourse, as mentioned in the introduction, relax, close your eyes, and focus on your mantra. In this way, you will be able to maximize the output from the short amount of time we have today in the Sangat. In today's discourse, with the blessings of the divine, we will be delving into the 8th body of the Japji Sahib. I will be sharing with you those translations and commentaries that have been revealed to us by the great saints and the pious souls. Those souls that were the embodiment of these teachings. So far in the Japji Sahib, the divine conversation between a young Guru Nanak and the Siddhs, Guruji have addressed 3 main topics. These are the attributes of the divine, the misconceptions surrounding spirituality, and the hukam. Guruji have taught us that the divine is ever giving, ever nourishing, and is the complete, ultimate truth. They have told us that committing to worldly rituals, like vowing to remain silent, traveling to pilgrimages to clean the body and mind, and gaining vast amounts of worldly and spiritual knowledge, all amount to nothing if your intentions aren't true and a true love for the divine is absent. Guruji have given us two key pieces of information. The first, if we really want to travel the path of the great prophets and saints, we have to accept the hukam of the divine, accept God's will, flow with the current of the river and not against it. The second, nothing happens without the blessing of the divine, the kirpa, Gur Prasad. True liberation of the soul cannot be achieved until the divine blesses us. Everything in our life is received through the grace of the divine, whether that be good or bad. Body number 8 explores a similar concept about the misconceptions of what really matters in life. So let's delve into today's discourse. Sri Vaheguru Ji. Je jug chare arja, ਹੋਰ ਦਸੂਣੀ ਹੋਏ, ਨਵਾ ਖੰਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਣੀਐ, ਨਾਲ ਚਲੈ ਸਭ ਕੋਏ, ਚੰਗਾ ਨਾਉ ਰਖਾਏ ਕੈ, ਜਸ ਕੀਰਤ ਜਗ ਲੇ, ਜੇ ਤਿਸ ਨਦਰ ਨਾ ਆਵਈ, ਤਾ ਵਾਤ ਨਾ ਪੁੱਛੈ ਕੇ, ਕੀਟਾ ਅੰਦਰ ਕੀਟ ਕਰ, ਦੋਸੀ ਦੋਸ ਧਰੇ, ਨਾਨਕ ਨਿਰਗੁਣ ਗੁਣ ਕਰੇ, ਗੁਣਵੰਤਿਆ ਗੁਣ ਦੇ, ਤੇਹਾ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਸੁਝਈ, ਜੇ ਤਿਸ ਗੁਣ ਕੋਇ ਕਰੇ, ਨਾਨਕ ਨਿਰਗੁਣ ਗੁਣ ਕਰੇ, ਗੁਣਵੰਤਿਆ ਗੁਣ ਦੇ, ਤੇਹਾ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਸੁਝਈ, ਜੇ ਤਿਸ ਗੁਣ ਕੋਇ ਕਰੇ। ਜੇ ਜੁਗ ਚਾਰੇ ਆਰਜਾ, ਹੋਰ ਦਸੂਣੀ ਹੋਏ। Until this point, the Siddhs have attempted to challenge Guruji in various ways, with the hopes that they could make him their disciple and thus elevate their own status. An example of this was in the previous Pauri, where they transformed an entire river using their powers into a bed of gems, rubies and diamonds, hoping that Guru Nanak would fall prey to the immense riches that lay before him. But having returned without even a single mention of what he saw, the Siddhs were astounded and in awe. The burning desire to have Guru Nanak by their side grew immeasurably. The Siddhs now gathered around hastily to discuss their next ploy. As we know, the typical life expectancy of a human is approximately 75 to 80 years. Some may be 100 or 110 years, and that's pushing the upper limit. We as humans all have a desire to live a long life. Even the oldest of people will have the desire to live just that little bit longer. Our minds are plagued with unfulfilled worldly desires, and we want to live a long, long life so that all of our hopes and desires are satisfied. The root of all our fear is death, whether that be the death of our physical body, the death of our consciousness, or the death of our status and fame. Death is what we fear. We try our hardest through various breathing methods, technology, etc., to delay the inevitable. The Siddhs, through their intense practices, had developed the ability to slow down the breath to such an extent that they could live for hundreds of years. This was done through a concept known as pran or prana. It is said that though related to the breath, the prana is believed to be the life energy that operates within the body and is the true force that keeps one alive. So the Siddhs had adopted this idea, slowed down the breath, and thus extended their life. A yogi who had mastered this practice was revered and massively respected, both locally and afar, as this was a feat only a few could master. The Siddhs, looking upon the young, divine man before them, present another question. They ask Guru Nanak if he, like the great yogis of that time and before, could extend his life through the prana and live a long and exalted life. They boasted that they had become masters of this technique, and if Guru Nanak joined their side, they would teach him this complex method. Guruji replies, Je jog chare arja horad suni hoye. Je meaning if, Jog meaning age, Chare meaning all four, and Arja meaning lifespan. If one was to have the lifespan of all four ages, Hor dasuni hoye, and even 10 times that, meaning 40 jugs or yugas. Jugs are cycles of time, and there are 4 of them. The first jug is known as Satyug, the second, Treta, the third, Dwapar, and the fourth is Kaljug. Satyug was the golden age, an age that spanned approximately 1.7 million years, and the average duration of human life was 100,000 years. It was the age where truth prevailed. People were attuned to the Shabad and would engage themselves in acts of goodness. However, due to the enormous lifespan of the human, a sense of immortality started to creep in, and with this, ego. This instigated the second cycle of time, the Silver Age, Treta. Treta spanned approximately 1.3 million years, and the lifespan of the human was 1/10 of that in Satyug, meaning 10,000 years. This was generally a good age. People were still engaged with the Shabad and meditation and performing good deeds, but the presence of ego was growing. This led to the Bronze Age, the third cycle of time, Dwapar. Dwapar spanned approximately 864,000 years, and the lifetime of the human was 1/10 of that of Treta, so 1,000 years. The presence of ego was more apparent. More and more people would be engaging in acts that were rooted in ego. And slowly but surely, they were drifting away from the Shabad. From Dwapar emerged Kaljug, the Iron Age, the age we are currently living in. Kaljug, according to ancient writings, will span 432,000 years, and the lifespan of the human is 1/10 of that in Dwapar, meaning approximately 100 years. As mentioned in the scriptures, it is the age of hypocrisy. Ego is at its highest. The veil of Maya between us and the divine is thicker than ever, and mankind is moving further and further away from the Shabad. Imagine the four ages as a table. Satyug is a table with 4 legs, a table with maximum spiritual stability. Treta, a table with 3 legs. Dwapar, a table with 2 legs. Then Kaljug, a table with only 1 leg. Minimal stability. Guruji says, Je jug chare arja, hor disuni hoye. If one was to have the lifespan of all 4 ages, or even 10 times that, and Nava khanda vich janiya, naal chale sab koe. Nava khanda vich janiya. You can be known throughout all the 9 regions of the world. And naal chale sab koe. And everyone is following you. Your fame is global. Some people are famous locally within their town or job. Some are famous in their country. Others have fame and are known throughout the world. Guruji is talking directly to us here. When our mind is clouded by ego, we all have a desire to be famous. whether that be on a global level or on a smaller scale. We want to be recognized. We want to be complimented. By feeling famous and appreciated, it's an external indicator and reinforced and relays back to the ego that you are liked, you are right, and you are better than others. We like this feeling. When we do meditation, we want people to look at us and think, wow, this person must be so spiritual. Or when we do seva, we want people to recognize our efforts and have the impression that we are really compassionate and kind. Our ego loves this. Nava khanda vich janiye, naal chale sab koe. We could be known throughout the world and have masses of following. We could also have Changa nao rakhaye ka jas kirat jag le. We can keep a good name for ourselves and preserve our honor and pride and have the whole world sing our praises. Guruji again is talking about our condition. Everything in our life is based on the external, rooted in Maya. We demand a long life because in our minds, the length of our life far surpasses the quality of it. Even if one has lived a life where they have enjoyed most of it and have lived it better than 99% of the world, they still cling on to it. It's mine. We are never satisfied. We spend all of our life basing everything we do in material delusion. We spend our whole life building relationships with people only for the benefit of the I. We look externally for comfort. We are constantly buying new phones, TVs, and cars to give ourselves a quick boost in dopamine. We spend years and years building and maintaining relationships with our friends and our family just so we can fill the void within. But Sangatji, Maya is the fuel of the car of desires. You can't just fill up once and not fill up again. As you drive more and more in the car of desires, you will also fill up more and more using the fuel of Maya. But these are the things we value, are at the core of what we call success. Guruji is saying to the Siddhs and us that you can have the longest life possible, have all the status, fame and respect in the world, but Je tis nadar na avai ta vaat na puchha ke. We are back at nadar, the divine grace, the divine blessing. Je tis nadar na avai. If you haven't received the blessings of the divine, and if you are not pleasing to the divine, ta vaat na puchha ke, then what is the use of all these material trophies and medals you have around your neck and boast about? What is the use of having such a long life filled with fame and respect? You will find that throughout the Japji Sahib, there are concepts that are repeated over and over again. Each time, each time they are mentioned, Guruji uses a slightly different approach, like a parent to a child. Sometimes the approach is very polite and soft, but when the child refuses to listen and persists with their mischief, the approach becomes more harsh and stern. But both approaches come from a place of love. The next line is the latter. Kita andar keet kar dosi dos tare. Guruji says, amongst worms, you will be considered a worm with no status. And even amongst the most disrespected and unpleasant of sinners, even they will consider you as the lowest and worst. Guruji isn't holding back. So Sangatji, what is Nadar? Nadar is the divine blessing. That blessing, when received, will completely destroy the veil of Maya. It's that blessing which will enable you to accept and realize the hukam. It is that blessing that will free your soul from the cage of Maya. It is that blessing which will enable you to find the true Sangat of the divine. This is Nadar. Everything that happens in your life is through Nadar. The question now is, who receives this Nadar? Is it the rich? The poor? The one that engages in spiritual acts? The one who meditates? The answer is simple. Anyone can receive this Nadar, regardless of your past and the deeds you have committed. An example of this would be Ajamal. Ajamal was a man who led a sinful life and was deeply attached to his wife and children. He had no respect for his parents or elders and spent his days drinking, gambling, and engaging in other immoral activities. Through the grace of the divine, he had met a saint. In this encounter, Ajamal told the saint that he and his wife were expecting a child. The saint congratulated him and instructed him to name his son Narayan, another name for the divine. Ajamal accepted this order, and when his son was born, named him Narayan. As he grew older, he became more and more attached to his son. Whenever he had any problems, he would call out for him. The day came when Ajamal was on his deathbed, breathing his last few breaths. The messengers of death were ready to beat him and take his soul. Ajamal was petrified and called out to his son. His son did not come. In desperation, he called out for Narayan again. But this time, the embodiment of the divine, Narayan, appeared before him and rescued him from the clutches of the Jamdut, the messengers of death. A man who lived his whole life in sin, through Nadar, was liberated at his last breath. Similarly, Sangatji, We could live our whole life acting like we are spiritualists, boasting about our compassion, our seva, our meditation, and look the part. But if we don't have this nadar, the blessing of the divine, then all our efforts were futile. This is why the scriptures and the pious souls repeat time and time again that whenever we receive anything in life, it is only through the blessings of the divine and nothing else. So the long life you live, filled with your fame, achievements, respect, and opinions, all mean nothing without nadar. Nanak nirguna gun kare, gunavantya gun de. Guru Nanak says that the divine, through his nadar, can make the nirgun, the one without any virtues, a virtuous being. And even those gunavantya, those who already possess great amounts of virtue, he is the one that bestowed these gifts upon them. Sangatji, another perspective we can take from this line is that Guru Nanak is telling us the virtue we all need to be in contention to receive his blessed nadar. And this is to know yourself as a nirguna, or in other words, stay in humility. Do not let the material world and achievements cloud your judgment into making you believe that you have become something. Stay humble and be grateful for everything you have. Teha koe na sujai, je tis guna koe kare. The divine is the giver of all virtues. No one can even begin to imagine a being that can bestow virtue upon the divine. It is impossible. Sangatji, to summarize this body, Guruji is reminding us about what really matters in life. They are telling us that the worldly achievements and gains we are so proud of and base our success on are completely useless in the world of spirituality. The only thing that matters in this world is to be pleasing to the divine, the one power that can make the worthless into a treasure of virtues. Sangatji, keep on knocking on the divine door. Keep up with your prayer and meditation. Keep up with your seva. Keep up with your charity, and do it with humility. If we keep knocking on this divine door, like a child that continuously calls out for their mother and eventually receives her attention, by continuously knocking on this divine door, the divine may bless us with his nadar and embrace us from the clutches of Maya. I will end today's discourse with a shabad that seems to be a direct explanation of this body. Todi Mahalla Panjava Har Bisrat Sada Khuari Tako Tokha Kaha Beapa Jako Ot Tuhari Rahao. Forgetting the Lord, one is ruined forever. How can anyone be deceived who has the support of you, my Lord? Bin Simrana Jo Jeevan Balana Sarp Jaise Arjari. Without meditating in remembrance on the Lord, life is like a burning fire, even if one lives long like a snake. Navakhandana ko raj kamawa, ant chale go hari. One may rule over the 9 regions of the earth, but in the end he shall have to depart, losing the game of life. Gun Nidan Gun Tin Hi Gaye Jako Kirpa Tari. He alone sings the glorious praises of the Lord, the treasure of virtue, upon whom the Lord showers his grace. So Sukhiya Tan Us Janma Nanak tis balihari. He is at peace and his birth is blessed. Nanak is a sacrifice to him. Gun nidan gun tin hi gaye jako kirpa tari. So sukhiya tan us janma Nanak tis balihari. Thank you, Sangaji, for joining today. Please forgive me for any mistakes I have made throughout the discourse and continue to bless us. Continue to bless us so we can continue to do the seva for you. Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki Fateh.